that he got a booster shot so he didn't transmit the virus to people in his family over the holidays.
Self-described comedian and political commentator Jimmy Dore went on a weird rant over the fact that journalist Ryan Grimm got a COVID booster shot. So I'm going to play this for you, and we're going to discuss just how stupid this is, but also, I don't know, maybe I'll share my thoughts on what the hell's gone on with Dore over the past few years, especially over the last few months with this vaccine. But here is this clip, and it's just really a weird thing to be angry about.
I was watching The Hill the other day, and the D.C. bureau chief of The Intercept said that he got his booster shot. Ryan Grimm said he got his booster shot because the holidays are coming up and he didn't want to transmit the virus to other people in his family. And it's like, you fucking dummy. The vaccine doesn't stop you from transmitting the virus. It doesn't. That you are not. He's virtue signaling. You're not protecting anyone else by getting vaccinated, you fucking propagandist at The Hill. That's the D.C. bureau chief, dumber than a fucking pothead comedian in his garage. That's the D.C. bureau chief of The Intercept, spreading medical misinformation, and they, of course, won't be flagged for it because they're on the corporate fucking algorithm, and they get pushed and they never get suppressed. But the actual accurate information on COVID will be suppressed, but their bullshit doesn't. It gets pushed. That was a complete medical misinformation Ryan Grimm from the D.C. bureau chief of The Intercept gave on The Hill on that show, saying that he got a booster shot so he didn't transmit the virus to people in his family over the holidays. That's not how that's not how the vaccination works, you fucking moron. I know that, and I'm high. Okay.
It is unbelievable how stupid this is. Unbelievable. He doesn't even realize that he has made this point against himself. And he's also used corporate media while doing that, while claiming that the real information about the vaccine is being suppressed by corporate media. As I'll show you, he uses CNN as a reference to make his point. But before, let me just go to this should be obvious, but Ryan Grimm in his response here lays it out, saying, "It is a well-established fact that if you are vaccinated, you are less likely to get infected. If you are less likely to get infected, you're less likely to spread it." Not hard to understand. This guy needs to move on from me. It's so weird. Yeah, that's the ultimate point here. Even if, and by the way, there is actual data showing that if you're vaccinated, as I'll get to later, that you do have less of a chance of spreading it. Not that much less of a chance, but still less of a chance of spreading it. But even putting that aside, the bigger point here is that if you're vaccinated, there's less of a chance of you getting COVID-19. That's the bigger issue. But how do you not understand that if there's less of a chance of you getting it, then there's less of a chance of you spreading it? How do you not get that? It is so bizarre. And this just random anger at Ryan Grimm for getting a booster shot, it's so ridiculous. But this is what I want to show you. So on October 30th, he references CNN here and the CDC director, who apparently aren't giving you the real information except here, where he's referencing them. But he tweets out here, "All you can do is get yourself vaccinated, and that will protect you from serious illness and hospitalization. But the hospitalization rate for unvaxxed people who get COVID is 0.89%, less than 1%. Vaxxed people, 0.01%. Now, what he doesn't seem to understand here is that this is an 89 times difference. 89 times difference. I know it's in decimals, it's a little confusing, but you're 89 times more likely to get hospitalized if you're unvaxxed with COVID than if you're vaccinated. And this was in the replies. A lot of people came back with this. Like this person here, the mayor, says, "Well, folks, numbers don't lie. Jimmy Dore himself says that being unvaxxed is 89 times more likely to get you hospitalized, get vaxxed." So, and again, he uses CNN that are suppressing the real information about the vaccines, but you're using them here. Now, in fact, let me just play the larger comments here from the CDC director, who still encourages in the video people to get vaccinated.
But what about all the fully vaccinated people who get the breakthrough infection? Can they pass it on? Could they pass it on to their children? Could they pass the virus on to older people, especially more vulnerable people with underlying health conditions?
And that's exactly the point that we made in our guidance. So yes, they can with the Delta variant. And that was the reason that we changed our guidance last Tuesday. Our vaccines are working exceptionally well. They continue to work well for Delta with regard to severe illness and death. They prevent it. But what they can't do anymore is prevent transmission. So if you're going home to somebody who has not been vaccinated, to somebody who can't get vaccinated, somebody who might be immunosuppressed or a little bit frail, somebody who has comorbidities that put them at high risk, I would suggest you wear a mask in public indoor settings.
Especially if there is a breakthrough case, you get COVID, you're fully vaccinated, but you are totally asymptomatic, you could still pass on the virus to someone else. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And that's where our masking recommendation came from.
All right. So the larger point here is that the more people that are vaccinated, it means less people will be in the hospital with COVID-19. That's it. Yes, you can still transmit it if you have the vaccine. It's harder to get if you have the vaccine, but if you get it, you can still transmit it. But if you're transmitting it to somebody that is vaccinated, then there's less of a chance of them and you being in the hospital. But like, for some reason, that isn't the point being made here by people like Jimmy Dore. They want to focus instead on, oh, you can still transmit it. Yeah, but if you're vaccinated, you're more than likely going to be fine. But how is that? It's this like desire to want to be a contrarian. Just forget data, forget facts, forget reality, forget what actually matters. Whatever the mainstream narrative is, it must always be wrong and I must always be right. No, sometimes the mainstream narrative is actually correct. When it comes to science and data and vaccines and COVID-19, it's correct. It doesn't mean it's right about wages. It doesn't mean it's right about unions. It doesn't mean it's right about Medicare for all. But about this issue in particular, it's correct. Like, that is what being objective is, being able to understand, being able to take in different stories and understand sometimes it's correct, sometimes it's wrong, and being able to parse that. But people like Jimmy, they make a living off of just being angry and raging about everything, including, a random journalist who got a booster shot. It's so weird. But let me first reference quickly this study out of the UK that goes to show that, yes, you transmit the virus less if you are vaccinated. Again, not a huge difference, but still, there's less of a chance of you transmitting it if you're vaccinated. So they say here, fully vaccinated people can contract and pass on COVID-19 in the home, but at lower rates than unvaccinated people. These are the findings of a study of COVID-19 transmission between household contacts led by Imperial College London and the UK Health Security Agency and published today in the Lancet Infectious Diseases. And this was from the end of October. They go on to say here, the analysis found that around 25% of vaccinated household contacts tested positive for COVID-19, compared with roughly 38% of unvaccinated household contacts. Fully vaccinated people cleared the infection more quickly than those who are unvaccinated, but their peak viral load, the greatest amount of virus found in their nose and throat, was similar to that seen in unvaccinated people, which may explain why they can still readily pass on the virus in household settings. Despite transmission between vaccinated people being possible, the researchers say it is essential for people who are unvaccinated and those who are now eligible for boosters to get vaccinated against COVID-19 to protect themselves from severe disease and hospitalization. And that here is the most important point. This is what you should be focused on when it comes to the vaccine. Not that you can still spread it. Yeah, you can still spread it. But if you are vaccinated, you are more protected against hospitalization and severe disease. And even Jimmy acknowledges that. 89 times difference between the unvaxxed and the vaccinated. You are 89 times more likely to be in the hospital if you are unvaccinated. So there you go. Now, in terms of what motivates him and what's going on with him, honestly, this video is too long already. So, I could spend, 30 minutes talking about that. In fact, I'll link you to my discussion with Progressive Voice and Mike Figueredo, where we discuss some of that on his podcast. So I'll link to that above and below the video. But I want to reference here Sean on YouTube, who put out this video, Jimmy Dore's Anti-Vaccine Lies. And he really breaks down over these 50 minutes very specific examples of how Jimmy misconstrues information to misinform the public about the vaccine. And it is blatant. So, when it comes to motivation, I don't know. Again, I don't know what his motivation is, but look at the numbers that these videos are getting. I'm sure that has something to do with it. It's just amazing to me to rage about a journalist that got a booster and not focus on the obvious fact that the vaccine protects you against severe illness and hospitalization.